This is Steve Downs, the voice of Master Chief, Sierra 117, and you're listening to Podcast Unlocked, the world's #1 Xbox podcast. Now, finish this fight. Master Chief, out.
What's happening, friends? Welcome to Podcast Unlocked, episode 447 for June 9th, 2020. Two-man game. We're running the two-man game this week. It's myself, Ryan McCaffrey, and I'm very pleased to be joined. He's been on Unlocked before, although I think the last time you were here, Parris, I was out for something. So I don't know if you and I have Podcast Unlocked together, but Parris Lilly from Gamertag Radio, it is great to have you here.
No, thank you for having me. And you're correct. Last time you were out and I basically filled in for you, and Destin was hosting, and it was a great conversation. And I'm finally, you and I actually get a chance to link up now and talk on the podcast. This will be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it'll be great. I appreciate you coming. Short notice too. You were very kind to jump on with me. So we've got a lot to talk about. That's the good news here. It's a busy week of Xbox. Plus, I mean, just as far as next gen gaming, we got the Sony event, the PS5 event rescheduled coming up for Thursday. So should be a good one. Quick housekeeping note. IGN's Summer of Gaming kicks off right now. If you're watching this, it's started. So the good news is some live stuff from earlier. It's fine. Just go back and watch it on IGN.com or YouTube.com/IGN. A lot of game reveals, developer interviews, all kinds of fun stuff happening on IGN. Our attempt to sort of fill the E3 void a little bit has officially begun. In fact, really on that note, Parris, I kind of want to get your thoughts on this too, because I know I've had a lot of thoughts here. We should be at E3, or we would have been at E3 right now. How many E3s would this have been for you? Because you've been in the game a little while as well.
Believe it or not, this would have been year 18 for me.
Wow. Nice.
Because I just the backstory, I live out in Southern California in the LA area. So I used to fudge my credentials, and I'd been going since 01 when the Xbox first came there. And I remember seeing Halo at the time, and I don't know if you were there or not, but I remember it was buggy on the show floor. It didn't show very well. And I go, oh, this is never going to work. And obviously here we are today. But I kind of unofficially have been going since 01. And then I started getting media credentials in 07. And I only missed 1 year since. And then obviously here we are now in 2020. But yeah, it's pretty bittersweet. It kind of hit me like a ton of bricks a couple days ago that, oh my God, everyone would be coming to LA right now. We'd all be hanging out right now. And you know, unfortunately, COVID happened and there's no E3. We would have the Xbox media briefing by now. We'd have seen Halo Infinite and just everything that would have gone along with that. So it's unfortunate, but I'm glad to be here, and we'll get all these reveals soon.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm kind of with you where the games will come. And in fact, I'm sure you mentioned Halo Infinite. 343 is probably happy that they have an extra like month and a half before they have to, to polish up their E3 build before they show it to the world. And but yeah, I miss E3. Like I'll tell you, it would have been. I'm a little behind you. I think this would have been either my 16th or 17th. I'd have to go back and add it up. But I'll tell you, I miss hanging out with people.
Right. Yeah,
I know I've run into you on the show floor before, and it's the people that I really miss. That's just like, man, that's the bummer part. That's where, I'd started to adjust to this quote unquote new normal of COVID life. But that's when I think about that, and that I'm not running into people, and it's like, oh man, I really miss being out and actually just randomly bumping into people that I know at E3.
Agreed. I mean, that's the thing. I was going through old pictures from previous E3s, and I started bumming myself out. I go, wait, we're not going to do this year. This is unfortunate, and I know we can debate the relevance of E3 anymore, but it's like you said, it's about the people. It's about just the friendships and the new acquaintances that you make at an event like that over a week span that I'll truly miss this year. So hopefully it returns in some form in 2021.
Yeah, I sure hope so. I mean, I know a lot of people out there, a lot of the chatter I see is like, oh, good riddance E3, you're irrelevant anyway, blah, blah, blah. But I like the industry. Maybe I'm just an old man yelling at a cloud, but I like the industry having this one Super Bowl-like moment for everything to just focus on for a week. And if that doesn't come back, I'm gonna miss it, because sure,
Agreed.
there are advantages to doing it this way and having everything kind of spread out and what have you. But yeah, I'll just miss that. Like the way I'd always describe it, I don't know if you feel this way, is being at E3 is kind of like being in the eye of a hurricane, but in a good way, where
Yes, right.
where
Yeah.
there's so much going on, and you don't even know everything that's going on. Like people at home actually, in some ways, have a better idea of the full picture of what's going on at E3. But I wouldn't trade the excitement of being at the eye of that thing for anything else.
Oh, agreed. I mean, just take the Xbox media briefing last year. I only remember two things from that event: Keanu Reeves
Yeah.
and Halo Infinite. That's it, because those were like, especially obviously Keanu Reeves coming out. That was just such a magical moment, and to be in the crowd when that happened, it's something you'll never forget.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, did you get the trailer? Speaking of Keanu Reeves, did you watch that Bill and Ted trailer this morning?
Yes, I did. I'm ready. I'm an old man, so I watched the originals, in the theater. So I'm absolutely excited to see this come back.
Yeah, that's going to be just a. I hope it's one of those, like, because sequels that of beloved things that come back after like multiple decades have kind of a mixed track record. So
Yeah.
we'll see how it turns out. But
The biggest gaming event of the year is IGN's Summer of Gaming, and it's almost here. Tune into IGN throughout June to see the latest and greatest in game reveals, news, trailers, next-gen coverage, and more. We'll be kicking it off with our first ever IGN Expo, where you'll get first looks at world premiere game trailers, exclusive game demos, and interviews you won't find anywhere else. Follow the hashtag Summer of Gaming on TikTok to get the latest gaming news, trailers, and more, only from IGN.
anyway, all right, let's talk some more Xbox here. Let's get started with the news, because there is plenty of it to get to. I'll tell you, Parris, as much as I miss having the regular panel here, I actually like the occasional two-person podcast, because it just ends up being more of just a cool back and forth discussion. So don't tell Destin and Miranda, but I'm kind of glad it's just the two of us this week. We got to change things up, and especially because before we got on the air, you said you've got some strong opinions on this first topic. So here we go. We've got some hard evidence of the Xbox Lockhart, the so-called diskless, cheaper, lower spec next-gen Xbox to complement the Series X. We've got some evidence of its existence because Microsoft to date has not officially breathed a word of this thing. There's just been a lot of leaks, a lot of speculation. References to Xbox Lockhart have been found in the Windows operating system libraries. A tip of the cap to Jez Corden at Windows Central for that. Images from the operating system's code were tweeted out on top of a Jez tweet by Title OS, and it includes 5 references of the Lockhart codename found within several of Windows's System 32 library files. They include files specifically featuring the phrase Xbox-Lockhart, as well as Xbox-Anaconda, which of course the latter being the code name for the Series X. So lay it on me, Parris. What do you think about this thing?
So for me with Lockhart, I've gone back and forth on. I originally was completely against Lockhart. I go, why are we bringing out a second console? This doesn't make sense. Go with the Series X. You still have the Xbox One hardware that you've already said is going to stay relevant for at least a year, maybe even 2 years after launch. So let's just do that. Why are we introducing Lockhart? Then I started to realize, okay, I get it. Especially there's a competition with PlayStation. They're both playing chicken right now on who's going to announce the price. In that, if the Series X, we know the technical specs of it, it's not going to be cheap. And you want to make sure you have a low cost option for people that don't necessarily care about 4K. They're still playing on 1080p screens, things of that nature. So I'm like, okay, now I understand. I understand why they're doing it. And the fact that the SSD allegedly is going to be in Lockhart, things of that nature, I get it. But now I'm at this point where, all right, Lockhart's a thing. I understand it is most likely going to happen, but I don't want to see it in 2020. I don't think there's a reason for it in 2020. I think you launch Series X, and again, pretend $500. It's $499. You put it out against a PlayStation. There might be a $50 difference. It may be the same, whatever. but you still have the Xbox One. And I've always said that Xbox One X is such a great piece of tech that it would be a shame to see that thing just go away. And it's only been around, what, since 2017?
Yeah.
But if you really think about it, that the Xbox One X and the One S are your real low cost options for gamers in 2020 and even into 2021. So thinking along those lines, you introduce Lockhart when you cut the cord to the Xbox One. When you say the Xbox One is no longer going to be able to play any of these next generation games, that's when you introduce Lockhart. You say it's $299 or whatever it is. It also has the fast SSD, which can take advantage of things that can only be done on the Series X, but it's scaled at a cheaper price and for someone that's playing at 1080p or 1440p. And I think parents, me, would really appreciate that because I don't have to go run out and spend $400 or $500 on a new console when the Xbox One is no longer relevant. So those are kind of my long-winded thoughts on it. So I'm curious what you think about that.
Well, I think the rest of the unlocked panel's fired because you're making a lot of sense. You're making so much sense. No, seriously, like it's funny because we talked about that the very first whispers of Lockhart. We were kind of with you, like, yeah, maybe it's for down the road. But then the rumors started to seem like it was going to be both of them this fall. And I'll tell you, now you've kind of seriously, like you've just got me thinking now. You've made so much sense with that case that maybe you're right, because maybe that's why we haven't heard any whispers about it from Microsoft, because that was kind of what I had in my notes here was, okay, if this thing is real as it seems to be. Now, I would caveat it by saying it's possible that Lockhart's been shelved, that it's been put away, that these references to it in the Windows files are just vestigial and nothing's going to come of this. They just said, you know what? We're going to be aggressive with our Series X pricing. Let's kill the other project. But I think more likely it is real. And it's just a question of if it's coming in for day one alongside the Series X, I sit here and go, when and how are you going to message that? Because I don't know how you feel, Parris, but so far here on Unlocked, we've been very much applauding Microsoft after years of having to criticize them. I think their Series X messaging has been, for the most part, flawless thus far. I mean, we know the May event didn't go over super great. Right. They clearly learned a lot from that. I've talked to people internal at Microsoft. They know. But that aside, like their messaging's been so good that if Lockhart is a day one thing this fall alongside Series X, how do you message it? And I don't know the answer to that.
I agree that and that's kind of my thing, because you've been promoting the Series X, it's next gen, just all these awesome features that we've seen, and I'm here for it. Hey, sign me up. The Series X looks like an amazing piece of tech. But then you go, but then here's basically the budget version of it. But then you also still have the One S and the One X out there as well. And again, if you talk about low price options, think about it. The One S, all digital, God, is that thing $150 this holiday? I mean, it's going to be dirt cheap. And you can still say it's going to play Cyberpunk. It's going to play Halo Infinite. It's going to play Forza 8 or whatever else is going to come out this holiday. And for the budget, conscious consumer, there you go. Or get the One X. It does stuff in 4K and all that. It just seems to me logically, you don't unveil, like let's put it this way. The only reason that we even have Lockhart is price. That's it. So you're not going to talk about it until you're ready to say how much it costs. So if it doesn't come out this year, I almost think they don't even show it. I mean, it would not shock me at all that we don't hear anything about Lockhart until maybe E3 next year. And then they say, this holiday, we're coming out. We're no longer making an Xbox One. But if you still don't want to spend X amount for the Series X, here's another option for you. And that would be Lockhart.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Because, like my thinking was, okay, if it's this year, they're going to just show it, name it, release date, price it all in one swoop. Yeah. They're not gonna drag out the Lockhart. They're not gonna be like, well, come on back at our next Xbox 2020 showcase and we'll tell you what the price is. No, this thing's just gonna be a
Yeah.
quick and dirty, like, here's what it is, here's what it does and maybe doesn't do, and here's when you can buy it and how much it costs. I can't imagine that it's going to be uh, any kind of pomp and circumstance the way we've had with the Series X.
I mean,
It's
think of it this
odd.
way. Yeah. Think of it this way. Like in 2016, they teased, at the time it was Project Scorpio, but the One X, they teased it as this next thing. You had developers and these montage videos. And then even again last year, they teased out the Series X, the same thing, the whole montage. This is the future. You can't do that with Lockhart because it's not the future. It's the budget version of what you've already talked about. So, like you said, whenever they say Lockhart, it has to immediately come out with a price, or what's the point, in my opinion?
All right, so we'll see. It's place your bets out there on Locked
Yeah.
Audience, because who knows what's going to happen with this thing and when. All right, I'm so glad you're here for many reasons. One, so that I don't have to talk to a camera alone. That's
Right.
number one. But number two, because there was some big Destiny news today. You're a big Destiny player. I wish I had Destin here so the two of you could just take it away as bona fide experts. But instead, I will do my best to hang in the conversation with you. What Bungie really sort of laid out quite a roadmap for the future of Destiny today, did they not?
Oh, they absolutely did. And I'll just say up front, yes, I'm a huge Destiny fan. I've been there since day one through all the ups and downs that is Destiny. And I will fully admit I've not been the happiest with the game over the past few months with just some of the things that they've done. And I was well aware that they were aware they needed to change things. So this reveal was very exciting to me because I'm like, they know that they can't keep doing what they're doing. So what do they have? And what we got is they showed off not only the next expansion, which is Destiny 2 Beyond Light, they went beyond that. They showed us the long-term roadmap for what they plan on doing with Destiny as a franchise. So in 2021, we're going to get the Witch King expansion. And then in 2022, we're getting Lightfall, which is that the end of Destiny? Are they moving on to something else at that point? I mean, I guess we'll see at that time, but it's exciting that they're finally starting to embrace some of the things that us long-term Destiny players have been looking for. We're finally getting a new subclass. We're embracing the darkness. They're introducing a new element damage type called Stasis. We're getting, just on the console side, they're embracing the Series X and the PlayStation 5. We're getting 4K 60 frames per second. On console, which if you've been playing Destiny on PC, it's literally a different game. So the fact that that's coming to console now is very exciting. They're also going to support generational crossplay in year one. And they have future aspirations for just complete crossplay, which that's the game changer right there.
Holy grail.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have cross save now, which is great. So I'm able to jump to whatever platform my friends are on. But to be able to say, hey, I'm on my Xbox and I get to play with my PC friends, my PlayStation friends, my 12 Stadia friends, I guess, right? You know, but we're able to have that option is going to be amazing. But the other thing that they're doing, which really I think it's a cool concept, is it's called the Destiny Content Vault. So the game's just growing exponentially and it can't keep doing that. So they're going to start sunsetting some of the old areas in the game and basically put them in the vault. But at the same time, they're going to reach into the Destiny 1 bag, so to speak, and pull back some old areas current into Destiny 2. So as an example, one of the first ones is going to be the Cosmodrome, that's the OG. That's the original area in the game that we played in the alpha and the beta. That's coming back. Some of the old strikes are coming back. Vault of Glass is coming back, and they're going to obviously stage this over time. But it's exciting to see that now some of those old areas that are long forgotten in Destiny 1 are going to get a new enhanced life in Destiny 2. And they'll do it, seems like, in a very smart way. They're not going to just throw everything all at once. And you'll see some areas return. You'll see some current areas go away. Some of those ones that went away might come back in the future. The possibilities are endless when it comes to that. So as a longtime Destiny player, I'm instantly excited for this because I did a live stream this morning. I was like, well, I know what I'm playing tonight. I'm going to start playing Destiny 2 again because this is the type of content. This is the direction I wanted Destiny 2 to go. And yeah, it's great. And kudos to Bungie. The 8 minutes and 46 seconds of silence they did at the start of that stream, I means so much to me personally, and I know it means so much to a lot of other people out there. So kudos to them for doing what they do. It's why I support them, because I love that studio and I love those people over there.
And you've probably seen their CEO Pete Parsons' tweets from
Yes.
participating. He and other Bungie people participated in the Seattle peaceful protest, and let's just say, I mean, his experiences were clearly had a profound impact on him. And he even said, "Hey, I'm a business leader, a corporate tax-paying business leader here in Seattle, and I'm going to make my voice heard, my corporate tax-paying voice heard," which was so great to see, because that is how that's a big way that things are going to hopefully move forward for the better.
Absolutely. And that's what needs to happen. It has to start happening at that level to invoke change. And just like you said, Pete Parsons and a lot of those people, at Bungie were out protesting actively this weekend and peacefully. And what happened? I mean, obviously this isn't the show to get into that, but yeah, I'm glad to see some changes is going to finally start happening.
Now, a couple things. One that strikes me while you were talking there is, I'm reminded, like, how quickly I forget. Destiny now, and the Destiny franchise will become a three generation game, because
Yes.
remember, there was a PS3 and 360 version that they supported for what, a year or two, I think, after the game came out in 2014. If I'm remembering, you would
Yeah, it was
remember. I think I've
2014.
got
Yeah,
that right. Yeah,
2014. Yes.
but there was a 360 and PS3 version that they then discontinued support after a little while. So with them fully embracing Series X and PS5, that means Destiny will span 3 console generations now. Which, I think about it and I go, man, it doesn't seem like Destiny's been around that long, but it absolutely has.
No, it has. We're going into year 6 of Destiny, and just a quick little story on that. I've been playing it so long that my son, he was like 9 years old at the time. He used to just sit and watch me, and then a couple years in, he started playing, and then we started playing together and doing raids and all that. And it's like, now he's way better than I am. He laughs at me when I play because he's that good. And it's just crazy, like you said, the amount of time that's gone on with that game. One other thing I forgot to say is it looks like Destiny 2 will support smart delivery as far as being able to move over to the Series X and even the PlayStation 5 as well. There will be no cost to quote unquote upgrade to the PlayStation 5 version of Destiny 2. So that's good news. It's great to see that they're able to support that, and it's going to allow a lot of us to be able to continue to play together.
Now, the one there was actually one other thing I wanted to ask you before we move on from Destiny, Parris. As a Destiny player, I've seen some chatter on my Twitter timeline this morning in light of all of the Bungie announcements. Number one, do you want to see the 2 dropped off and just see it become Destiny, as just that's because it's clear from what you've said from how Bungie is treating this moving forward. It sure doesn't seem like there's going to be a Destiny 3. Like, this is a singular living, breathing entity. I mean, I guess it always kind of was, but they did do a Destiny 2 proper foundation to build off of. But now that they're pulling in all this classic Destiny stuff, do you agree? Am I off base there, and that thinking that there won't be a Destiny 3? And number 2, do you think they should just drop the 2 and just call it Destiny?
I'll say it this way. I personally would like to see them just drop the number and just be Destiny, blah, 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 whatever it is. But Luke Smith did say something interesting during the reveal today, that this is why they're not doing a sequel right now, because they would have to completely start from scratch and over, and then you're trying to support 2 games at the same time, and it would just be a technical mess to do that. So this is almost their way of saying there won't be a Destiny 3, but leaving the door open way down the road, potentially, if they wanted to completely just evolve the game into something different, they could slap a 3 on it. But I do agree. It seems like we're going to be living in Destiny 2 for a very long time moving forward. So maybe, if I thought this would have been the moment to just drop the 2, but clearly they didn't. So maybe they're leaving the door open potentially down the road to go to a Destiny 3.
Now, and I guess the last point on this, to me, the Destiny content vault stuff that you're talking about that they're doing, it almost seems like they're trying to do a a World of Warcraft classic kind of thing where they're
Exactly.
running like the modern game if you want to play that. But hey, if you're old school, you want to take a trip down memory lane, they're still supporting the classic stuff too. Do you think that's as a Destiny player, do you think that's a reasonable analogy?
I think it is. I think it is because again, if you go back to Destiny 1, and I'll just stick with the raids for a second, you look at something like Vault of Glass, or you look at something like King's Fall, or even the Wrath of the Machine, those are classic raids that even if you were to play them today, they're a lot of fun, but they're kind of gated back in the old Destiny 1 with the old systems that have clearly evolved and changed. So it would be amazing to be able to go back into those scenarios with our old eyes and some new eyes who've never experienced it and enjoy it together. So I completely agree. I definitely think they're doing a kind of a WoW classic here where old and new can experience some of that content together.
Let's stay on Bungie for a second, but step aside from Destiny because we've got some hints this week as well about Bungie's well, not necessarily post Destiny, but their next thing after Destiny. A posting for an incubation art director has shown up on the Bungie career portal asking potential applicants if they would like to work on, quote, something comedic with lighthearted and whimsical characters, giving us a teensy glimpse at the tone the studio may be setting for its next game beyond Destiny. Other job listings help further illustrate the direction of Bungie's new IP. A position for incubation investment designer reveals that the game will have, quote, a wide variety of pursuit and loot systems, and notes that the role requires experience in, quote, fundamental RPG systems, indicating that we can once again expect the game built on RPG principles. Quote, you will work in tandem with our sandbox and economy teams to build and distribute items to our players. The position of incubation senior lead combat designer also indicates that weapons, armor, and abilities will be a core component of the game's combat encounters. So this sounds like a definite pivot tonally from Destiny, whatever they're thinking of next. But maybe not. Maybe they'll probably share some things, sort of fundamentally system wise.
Yeah, I agree. It definitely sounds like at its core, it will be more of a cousin to Destiny more than anything, but definitely a tone shift. And again, I'm way speculating here at this point, but remember they did the deal, God, with the Chinese company, and I can't think of the name. Yes, maybe this is they're gonna maybe it's a mobile title, maybe it's something that ventures off into. I know Destiny 2 does a quasi free to play right now, but maybe this is a free to play thing they can do. It's a more casual experience, so to speak, so they can kind of attract more of a like if Destiny is clearly shifting more towards an hardcore audience, which is what the community has wanted. Maybe this is their answer for a casual audience where, hey, there's not a lot of pressure on you to do this and that, and you can have a fun experience with your friends. Just, spitballing here, but it's clear. And I was even thinking about this when I saw it. If you really remember going back in the history of Bungie, part of the reason that they split with Xbox at the time was they had just become the Halo company or the Halo studio, and they wanted to do something else, which obviously is Destiny. We're already talking now. We're already into year 6 of Destiny, and there was obviously a lot of development time before that. So you have to think a lot of the core people at that studio may want to just do something else. So instead of actually having to leave the company, this is a way for them to pivot and try something different for once.
Yeah, there's a couple things that come to mind for me. One is, so I confess, I was a kind of a Bungie, I don't know if expert's the right word, but I really followed Bungie super closely in the Halo days. Obviously, I'm a big Halo guy. And Jason Jones is the sort of creative beating heart of that studio. It's not to disparage any of the many talented people that work there, but he is kind of the man behind the curtain. And he never gives interviews. I got to interview him once right in the run up to Destiny's launch, and that was the first time he'd done an interview in 11 years. So that's the kind of like, he's totally the Wizard of Oz. And he famously was incubating what became Destiny after Halo 2. Like, he went off after 2 and started to kind of think about what was next for Bungie. So I wonder if this sort of comical, lighthearted, whimsical thing is his next brainchild, or if this is just, maybe that's other folks on the team that have cooked up something else that they're spinning up here. But regardless, like, yeah, they are, Bungie is, and I say this in a polite way, like they're a machine now. Like they're
Oh yeah.
most developers, game development, as you know, it takes hundreds of people, sometimes 100, sometimes 300, but it takes a lot of people to make a AAA game. But most studios, in my experience, are still kind of in the 100 to 200 range of like full-time people at the studio. You got contractors, you got various other people that come in, but Bungie, last I knew, and you probably know better than me, is about like 500 to 600 people in Kirkland, Washington.
I think it's higher actually.
Higher.
Yeah.
They are. Yeah, they're just a massive, like, monolithic enterprise, all of their own. They're not owned by, they broke off their deal with Activision. They're not owned by Microsoft, obviously. So but I say that in that they've got to find a way to keep feeding their own machine, like keep their employees going and creative and happy and paid and successful. So I guess it'll be kind of interesting to see exactly what this other project is, to your point of like how it can complement the hardcore game that Destiny is.
I think a way to kind of look at it for people that's watching or listening is look at CD Projekt Red, because Bungie is basically in a similar situation right now where CD Projekt Red is completely self-owned, self-published, and they've been working on, Cyberpunk forever. They obviously did The Witcher 3, but they also do things like Gwent, and they obviously have ventures in GOG and stuff like that. So that's kind of a way where you can have your hands in different things and you're not just literally making the same thing constantly. And I kind of think maybe this is where Bungie is headed, to where instead of them just being the Destiny studio, this allows them, like you said, to kind of look at what's next and start doing other things to kind of diversify internally in the studio.
You know what this kind of reminds me of, and again, this might prove to be wildly unfair, but just from hearing whimsical, comical, more lighthearted, I wonder if this almost feels like this could be Bungie's Fortnite, because remember, Epic they were Unreal Tournament, Gears of War, like hardcore gamer, gritty, mature games. And then it turns out Fortnite is this lighthearted, comic, whimsical thing that's turned into their biggest thing. And this almost kind of feels like that to me with Bungie.
Yeah, it very well could be, because again, bringing my son back into the conversation for a second, as much as he loves Destiny, he plays Fortnite a lot more. And I'm sure Bungie would love to be able to get to that Fortnite level with what Epic is doing, and Destiny is just simply not built to do that. So it would require a new IP to be able to try and challenge that throne.
All right, you mentioned, Parris, Cyberpunk 2077. I know from just anybody following you on Twitter knows you are very excited for this video game. I mean, many people are, but yeah, you are. This is your thing that you are looking forward to, I should say. And boy, I mean, I saw you were trying to get your hands on the Cyberpunk 2077 custom Xbox One X console, and apparently it is sold out everywhere. I'm kind of curious if you were able to track one down or how that's going for you.
Yes, I was. And I want to, and I will formally thank them later, but there's some anonymous people right now that really helped me out to get that console, because like you said, I remember I woke up at like 5 that morning. I was like, it's on sale. Should I get it? Maybe. No. Yes. No. And then I had some people put a lot of peer pressure and was like, dude, come on, you only live once. Go get it. Okay, I'll go get it. Oh no, it's sold out everywhere. And then, yeah, some people helped me out to get it. So I think it might arrive today. Nice. Ironically enough, today or tomorrow, I should be getting it.
Yeah. And the sort of interesting note about this is not just that it exists and not just that it's sold out, but apparently they didn't even message this until it's been discovered now. It comes with some future DLC. So if you've got this thing, there's just a little extra value in it besides what seems like collectability of the thing as well. Because based on the response, it sounds like if you want, you might be able to flip this thing for a profit.
Yeah, it's the prices on eBay right now are outrageous. But one thing I wanted to comment on, because this kind of goes back in the Xbox, because I can't remember if you guys have talked about this. My thought, I'm going to play Cyberpunk on PC. So my
Yeah.
thought was, when the code comes in, I'm just going to give it away to the community or something like that. And I was talking about that on Twitter, and someone pointed out to me that you can't do that anymore. And I go, what do you mean? Because now Xbox has that feature where basically the code is built into the hardware. So when you get these console bundles that have games included, the gamer tag that you sign in with, that game is now bound to that gamer tag, to that account. So you don't just have a code to give away. And I would assume they're doing this to stop kind of the resale market that's probably happening on eBay and things like that. But I had no clue until a couple days ago that they were doing that. And then I went to Xbox.com and actually read their article about it.
Yeah, that seems to be a newer policy, and you're right. Like it's that's clearly what it's an attempt to help curb. But go figure that you're trying to do something magnanimous for the you're trying to be a nice
Yeah.
guy and give the thing away, and you won't be able to do it, which is a shame. But let's see here. What do we got? Man, there's still how much time? We got 35 minutes. We got plenty more to go here. Infinity Ward, Call of Duty Modern Warfare continues to be a big game. And Infinity Ward taking to the community to post a message. They say they are taking steps to try and clean up the Modern Warfare community. They tweeted out, "There is no place for racist content in our game. This is an effort we began with launch, and we need to do a better job. We're issuing thousands of daily bans of racist and hate-oriented names, but we know we have more to do. This includes adding additional resources to monitor and ID racist content, adding additional in-game reporting systems to increase the number of bans by hour, adding filters and greater restrictions on name changes, evaluating in-game improvements to make it easier to report offenses, and increasing permanent bans to root out repeat offenders." I mean, I can't imagine what the sort of daunting task of trying to police a game that sells 10, 15, 20 million units and has a vibrant community. But I just don't understand how this, they just don't have tools built in to the game that will block a lot of this stuff. Like, I know that's a completely ignorant thing to say. I'm not a game developer, but it astounds me that it took tectonic shifting events in the world to even get Infinity Ward to sort of snap out of it and go, "Oh, we need to do better at this."
No, completely agree with you, and kudos to Infinity Ward for and Activision for actually stepping up and saying,
Yeah.
we realize this is something that needs to be addressed. And I would also throw in that I saw Brian Gerard over at 343 talking about this for Halo, that they know they need to do a better job. And obviously Halo Infinite's coming out, so a lot of eyeballs are going to be on that game. So I would fully expect them to talk about this more in the upcoming months as well. And if you give me 1 second, I'll also mention EA. I've been a part of a program with EA, and it's called Building Healthy Communities, where they've reached out to people, people like me, to bring us in to talk about these things, to talk about what can EA do better to basically police, in their online games, and what kind of tools are needed, what kind of reporting is needed. And I'll just simply say, doesn't matter the game. It comes back to this. It comes back to accountability. We lack the accountability in a lot of these online games where people can remain anonymous, and it brings out the worst in people when you do that. So again, I'm not a game developer. I don't know how easy or hard it's going to be, but to me, that is the solution. When people are actually held accountable for their actions and the punishment is quick and severe, I think we'll see a lot of this stuff go away in the industry.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned EA, like that's. I mean, I didn't know that. I mean, that's great to hear that they are doing that kind of outreach with the community to try and better themselves. But then this very, I wasn't going to do this story only because we're already sort of talking about the same thing with Call of Duty. But NHL, of all things, NHL this week has had rampant problems in this same area where players are complaining that there are no tools,
Right.
your exact point, to report this stuff, that to help try and combat this. And so it makes it exceptionally difficult for the developers and the support staff at EA to try and clean this stuff up. And so I guess if nothing else, hopefully, I mean, not that there's any really silver lining in anything that's going on right now as far as the gaming, the toxicity in the gaming world, but maybe it will finally wake up these big publishers to take much more definitive action, to your point about accountability.
Yeah, I mean, and that's really the thing. Look, there's been obviously a lot of terrible things that's been happening in the world recently, but I try to look at the good out of all of this. And now we're having these conversations,
Yeah.
and that's the key. We're actually talking about it. People in positions to actually make change are talking about this now. And look, it's not going to happen overnight. We obviously have to be patient on it, but eventually I do think we're going to get there. I mean, there's no magical light switch for it, but like you said, it's going to come down to getting the proper tools in place in these games, to get the right reporting, and to actually get the community to believe that when they do report an offense like this, that something happens. If people are seeing that stuff is happening, people are going to be more willing to actually report it and talk about it. And then if there are actions and suspensions and whatever bans that are happening, then yeah, this stuff is going to start to get cleaned up. So look, everything's unfortunate right now that's happening, but I do think if you look long term, I do think there is a silver lining there that, something good is going to come out of this.
It's a great point. Yeah, I mean, I hadn't really thought about it in the way of like the people at the very top are gonna actually, to exactly what you said about accountability. It's the top of the companies are gonna start to hold their direct reports accountable, who are going to hold their direct reports accountable,
And then,
which
yeah, it
will
just goes on
hopefully,
down.
will hopefully institute meaningful and productive and good change. Speaking of EA, we're not done with them quite yet. They are doing crossplay for the first time with Need for Speed Heat. EA and Criterion announcing that Need for Speed Heat today becomes the first EA game to feature crossplay. Criterion GM Matt Webster posting a letter on EA's official site explaining that after an update that is out today, Heat is the first EA title to ever feature crossplay across PC, PS4, and Xbox One. Quote, "We're thrilled to let you all know that on June 9th, that's today, Need for Speed Heat will be the first EA title to offer crossplay, meaning that players, regardless of their platform, can jump into Palm City together as one unified community." And as we at Criterion shift gears into the future with full focus on developing the next Need for Speed game, this will be our final update for Need for Speed Heat. Well, this is good to see. I mean,
Yeah,
there's
good.
nothing to complain about here. And my point, the thing I took out of this, Parris, is I'm hoping this bodes well for next gen. That now that these companies, and really this is credit to Microsoft by and large, Microsoft has really dragged a lot of these companies kicking and screaming to this point.
No, completely agree. And like you said, I think this bodes well for next gen. Obviously, at the top, we talked about Bungie. They're already talking about it, that they want to implement it for their game. So I think when you look just across the landscape, and kudos to Microsoft, obviously, and kudos to Epic and Fortnite, because I think that game being so powerful forced all this across the industry that, yeah, we are going to see more and more titles do crossplay. And then when you even look, just sticking to Xbox, if you look at what they're doing for next gen, I've long said Microsoft no longer cares where you play their games as long as you're playing them, be it across Xbox One, Series X, Lockhart, PC, the ColecoVision, if they brought that back, Project X Cloud, it doesn't matter. So that by itself promotes cross-play because they're going to want their community to be united across multiple hardware platforms. So absolutely, I think this is just EA testing the waters so that they can see, all right, as we get into next gen, Battlefield as an example, whenever Battlefield 6 comes out, maybe that's a huge AAA game for them that promotes cross-play. We've obviously already seen Call of Duty doing cross-play in some form. So yeah, I just think they're testing it out. And as we get into these next gen games, we're going to see a lot more of them adopt cross-play.
Now it's interesting. Need for Speed. I have to be honest. I don't think about Need for Speed much, which is weird because if Need for Speed, used to be just this annual cash cow for EA.
Yes.
Just every year it would sell huge, and it was usually pretty good. But in recent years, EA's kind of backed off of it as it had sort of lost some momentum. And to their credit, they stopped putting it out every year. and they've just focused on one game at a time, one studio from Criterion after the shift from Ghost, because the Ghost is doing other stuff now. So that said, if Criterion's only just now really shifting their focus over the next game, which I imagine it was probably already in pre-production while another team was working on updates like crossplay for Heat, got to figure holiday 2022 at the earliest for the next Need for Speed game, right?
Yeah, you would think. Yeah, I would think so. Most likely 2022.
So,
and I'll say one other thing since you mentioned Criterion. I just feel like EA is just missing a gold mine, not bringing back Burnout.
Oh, I was hoping you'd say that.
and just because I look at Forza Horizon, and I'm not the biggest Forza Horizon person, but I understand how well received it is and how much people love it. I mean, EA, it's like Burnout is just screaming to the rooftops. That's us. Let us do that. So I really hope when we get a nice EA played next gen surprise and Criterion's making Burnout or something like that, I think it'd be really good.
That would very few things in gaming would make me happier than that. Cause I'm with you. I am such a Burnout aficionado. I love that series, but I think just without being able to listen in through the walls at EA, it would seem like a big problem with that is that remember Burnout doesn't have officially licensed cars because they're wrecking the heck out of them.
Right.
So, which I imagine that the car manufacturers don't want to license their cars only to see them like decimated in screenshots and videos on the internet. So I wonder if that's kind of because you do need those name brand cars and car companies to sell a car game, which Horizon's able to do, but Horizon isn't flinging them into buildings, right? And blowing them up. But yeah. I'm so with you, man. A next gen Burnout would be, that would make my day for sure.
Yes, it would. Absolutely.
All right. One more story this week before we'll move on to the loot box question. EA's E3 equivalent, EA Play, which they've of course been doing the last few years. EA officially pulled out of E3 a few years ago. They have pushed that back a week, as Sony had pushed back. Everybody's been kind of pushing events back a week to give the world time to think about what's been going on, which I certainly applaud. EA has announced that EA Play will now happen instead of this week. It'll be June 19th. June 18th at 4 p.m. Pacific. That's 7 p.m. Eastern time. So if you're a European listener, sorry, EA is programming very late for you guys across the Atlantic. But so I'm fine. Who doesn't matter. It just means it's one less week, right, Parris, to wait when these games are actually announced and we're waiting for them. But what do you think we might see at EA Play this year?
Okay, I'm going to be very selfish. Okay, let's get this out of the way. I'm sure we'll get a Battlefield teaser. Obviously we're going to see their sports lineup, things of that nature. I'm sure we'll get a teaser from Respawn for the next thing of Apex. I'm sure we'll get something for Star Wars. But I am selfishly saying right now to everyone watching and listening to this event will be a failure to me if we do not get the Mass Effect Trilogy remake, remaster, whatever they call it. I have to have this. I have to have it. They need to bring this out on next-gen consoles. I need Mass Effect 2. It is one of the greatest games ever made, period, and I need to play it again. So please, EA, do it. It's long overdue.
So the rumors won't go away. Like you're not you're not talking out of school here. There are rumors of this thing that do not want to go away. And I mean, can you think of a better way for BioWare to start to heal their wounded reputation? Right?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. That brings back so much goodwill. And I'm sure they'll talk about Dragon Age and things like that. But that brings back so much goodwill because that trilogy of games are so beloved. And like I said, I obviously say Mass Effect 2 specifically because I love that game so much that to give me an excuse to go back and replay those, of course. And you have so many of the younger generation now who hasn't played Mass Effect. what better way to introduce them into that franchise than to bring back the originals, 4K, 60 frames, ray tracing, everything else they'll be able to do on the next gen consoles.
Well, that, and I mean, even though we'd only be it would just be one generation difference if it's on Series X and PS5. The entire Mass Effect trilogy came in the early part
Right.
of the current generation. I mean, it was holiday 2007, the basically about the 2-year anniversary of the 360, and only of course at that point it was an Xbox exclusive. The PS3 had only been out 1 year at that point. And then, if memory serves, I believe Mass Effect 2 was January or February of 2010.
January 26, 2010.
Okay, thank you. Yes, exactly.
That's how much I like that game. Yeah.
So, well, so tell me why? Because everybody I talk to, nobody ever says 3 is their favorite, and I think 3 gets a little bit of an unfair shake, but that's maybe a separate conversation. What is it about 2 versus 1 for you that you adore 2 the most?
I thought they really fixed the combat in Mass Effect 2 versus the original, and they really gave you freedom to try some of the different classes. And I just thought the encounters that you would have in various scenarios were really good. But when you look at the voice cast that they put together, you look at that story that they had, like you actually cared about these characters. You cared what happened to them when you go on the suicide mission at the end. Like the first time I played it, I lost a team member, and it hurt me. It was like,
Yeah.
I have to go back and play this, and I have to make sure everyone survives. And that's what was so good about it to me. It was literally that dirty dozen is what Mass Effect 2 was. And with you on 3, I'm in the camp of disappointment because I felt like they didn't follow up on so much that they did from 2, as far as some of the storylines that ended from 2 and 3. I was like, wait, really? That's how it ends? And it felt like a letdown to me. And I know a lot of people obviously were very upset with that ending, and they changed it and all that. And Mass Effect 3 wasn't a bad game. It's just coming off of 2, it wasn't as good of a game, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for me, I'm a 1 guy. Like, I totally agree. Like, the combat in 2 and 3 was way better. But
Yeah.
man, for me, the first one just felt like a space opera, which is what it was originally intended to be. Like, when you went to the Citadel, it was this huge place. Like, it felt like you were on this massive cosmic hub, right? Where all these different walks of life from around the galaxy would come. And in Mass Effect 2, the Citadel was literally like 2 rooms.
Right.
They really pared it down. But yeah, it's always interesting to me to talk to people who prefer one or the other, because there's no right or wrong answer, right? There are these really clear strengths about each of those games. And it will be interesting to see if it does come back, if you get your wish and the trilogy remaster is confirmed, how it would be received, what, 10 plus years later.
And now I do think, and again, this is why maybe this is more of a long-term thing. I do think it doesn't need to be a simple remaster, but almost a remake in a way, because I think to see it take advantage of technology now, and even with these new consoles coming out with the fast load times, like imagine going to the Citadel and there's no more 20-minute elevator rides where everything is instantaneous. I mean, and I'll selfishly bring Cyberpunk into this. Part of my excitement for that is this open world of Night City, this dark future where there's no load times. You can just go wherever you want. Apply that to the Citadel. Apply that to these planets that you'll be able to explore. If that was possible in a Mass Effect, and maybe that's the next Mass Effect game comes out and they can't achieve that with the current games, but that's what I think about, and that's what excites me when I think about what they potentially could do with the remasters of these games.
Well, I'll throw just last thing. I'll throw a little bit more fuel on your hype fire here, Parris, because we saw very recently the tech demo for Unreal Engine 5.
Yes.
And now the Mass Effect trilogy was built on Unreal. It wasn't until, of course, EA has made just about every in-house studio except for Respawn use Frostbite, and Mass Effect Andromeda used Frostbite. But so imagine if they remade the trilogy in Unreal Engine 5. How good would that be?
Oh, it would be amazing. And I guess now that you bring that up, that's kind of the hope, because obviously, Frostbite, hey, take it or leave it, whatever. But we know that Mass Effect has worked using that Unreal Engine. And it seems that EA is loosening the reins on mandating that every studio use that. And obviously, like you said, Respawn, Jedi Fallen Order didn't use it. So there's hope. And that tech demo was very impressive. And it really sets up the next generation of gaming and some of the possibilities we're going to see with these games. Like, I'll even bring Xbox into it. Think about it. Hellblade 2 is going to be on Unreal. So imagine what that's going to be. It's like Gear 6, whenever that comes, it's going to be on Unreal Engine 5. I mean, the possibilities are endless. I'm very excited for it.
All right, let's do the loot box real quick.
Sure.
So this is we get listeners just send in just a question, just something to ponder here. So let's talk real quick. We've got just this person just wanted to be identified by their gamer tag, which is Sergeant Azimuth. Asks this: which character from one franchise would you like to see? Would you like to play with in another game universe? No explanation, no context needed. Just drop them in. They'd just be there. A couple of examples this person cites are Master Chief and Marcus Phoenix joining up in the Gears universe, or how Ori might be in Cuphead. I like that one. Ori and Cuphead would be really cool. Anything come to mind for you there, Parris?
Yes, and I thought about this, and since it was one character, I'll just take one character because I was going to cheat. But and again, this goes back to my wish list that I hope we see in July. I'm a huge Banjo-Kazooie fan, huge. Like I was, fingers were crossed at E3 last year that they were going to announce it. So I'm fingers crossed again that we get a true Banjo-Kazooie platformer to come back to Xbox in the near future. It would just make my day. But sticking along those lines, the one character I would love to see would be Mario going into the Banjo.
Oh, that'd be good.
Oh, it would be so good. I just think that would be an amazing crossover to see. So that would be the character. It would be Mario going into the Banjo universe.
I mean, Mario's no stranger to crossovers. He's been doing it for decades. And
well, if I have to cheat, I didn't mean to cut you off, but if I want to cheat for a second, my original thought was I wanted to see the Rabbids go into Banjo. It's kind of like when you had that Mario plus Rabbids. That was a great game on the Switch. I would love to see the Rabbids invade the Banjo universe, but I think Mario would be good too.
Yeah, and you're not exactly pipe dreaming, because Nintendo has shown a willingness to do partnerships with a lot of people, including Microsoft. I mean, we've seen some Xbox games head over to the Switch, and it's not unheard of. It could happen, and I like where your head's at. For me, I'm gonna dip back to a familiar well. You're thirsting, you're hungry for that Mass Effect remake. For me, I've been dying for the return of Sam Fisher and Splinter Cell.
Oh yes,
for a very, very long time. We're now coming up on the 7-year anniversary of the last Splinter Cell game. It's coming up in August, so just a couple months away. It's been a long time, and so for me, I would love to see Joanna Dark join Sam Fisher as his protege and have the Splinter Cell and Perfect Dark universes merge into one new franchise where they could both be in it. Maybe, Sam's playable for a little while and then hands the baton off and becomes just the Lambert voice in Joanna's ear moving forward. So that would be my pipe dream cross.
That would be amazing. And if I could just a side note, please, I hope the rumors that we've heard are true and Perfect Dark is coming back. I truly hope we see that in July, because that franchise is just overdue. I mean, think about it. It's been gone for 15 years now. That's crazy. So I really want that to come back.
Yeah, a long time. Wow. Yeah, you're right. That was a day one launch title, 2005. My goodness. Whew. Man, time flies. How was that 15 years ago already? That's
We're
crazy.
getting old. Yep.
Would you now, real quick, would you be fine with if Banjo 3E exists at some point? realistically, Rare seems pretty busy, right? They've got part of the
Mhm.
team that's continuing to support Sea of Thieves, and then they've got Everwild. What if, riddle me this, what if Double Fine made it? Would you be cool with that?
I might pass out if that happens because of all, like, I wasn't even thinking of that studio with Banjo, but it's almost perfect.
Right?
Oh,
They're doing
absolutely.
Psychonauts 2 right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, I would love that. Absolutely.
I mean, Tim Schafer writing a Banjo game.
Yeah,
I
that's what
would
I mean.
be,
Just
yeah.
I can see just the grunty with her comedic banter, just shaming Banjo and Kazooie throughout. Oh, it would be so good. So good. Oh, I would love it.
Well, hopefully, Phil Spencer's taking notes right now because
Yes,
I know
yes,
he listens.
Phil.
He
Yes, Phil,
listens.
you listen, please.
He listens at the dog park. That's what I learned. That's his unlocked listening time. All right. Let's see. Should we? I guess. Well, let's. I'll test you on trivia. Why not? It's
Okay.
just me and you, and I already know the answer from having read the email. I don't know if you're a big fighting game fan, Parris. I am not.
I am not either.
All right.
So
Well,
this will
maybe
be fun.
we'll give Joshua from our the IGN audience a shout. Who, by the way, his gamer tag is "Don't read my gamer tag on the air. Instead, ask people to please donate to the NAACP Legal Defense and Education Fund," which, by the way, you can find a link to at the very top of the IGN homepage. Very right up at the top, you'll see the interlocked shaking hands. Click on that link. That will take you to that page where you can donate to the NAACP Legal Defense and Education Fund. So thank you, Joshua, for that. That's the best gamer tag I've ever heard in my life. So this stumped me again, Parris, but take a shot. The original Xbox, Joshua writes, wasn't exactly known for its fighting games, but it still had a few notable ones. You had Dead or Alive 3, Def Jam, Fight for New York. You had, of course, Tao Fang, Fist of the Lotus. It had its fair share. He says, one of my all-time favorites was Capcom versus SNK2 EO, which is EO. It featured a play mode that mapped all the special moves to simple gestures or cardinal directions on the right stick. So it just had like super simplified control option if you wanted to play that way. So he says, with that in mind, what did that acronym EO stand for? Was it energetic output, easy operation, extreme offensive, or everyday occurrence? Bear in mind that sometimes these names get translated over from Japanese, and it sounds maybe a little unusual to us.
Yeah.
But you've got 4 choices there, and again, this stumped me. I tried to guess before I looked at the bottom of his email. I did not get this right.
Okay, so the fact that you said that, let me say this first before I answer. So going back to your last episode, shout out to Khalif Adams, who you had on. He's a dear friend. I love him
He's
to
awesome.
death. When you guys were doing the Halo trivia, and he said Halo 3 Hell Jumpers, I was screaming. I was screaming at my phone. I go, it's Recon, it's Recon. So with that said, Khalif, this one is for you. I'm going to guess that it is D, everyday occurrence.
It's a solid guess because again, you're thinking maybe kind of a strange translation,
Yeah.
but it was in fact easy operation.
Oh, see, you tricked me because
Joshua, yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's my job as the host is
Yeah,
to not make it too easy on you. Maybe
Yeah.
throw a little red herring into the mix. So Joshua gets big credit for stumping the panel. The panel of one today. You're very gracious, Parris, to fall on that sword with no other unlocked panelists to also get it wrong. But a noble attempt, Joshua. Great job stumping us there, both of us, on that one. So if anybody out there has a trivia question, I could use more good ones to test the panel with. Send your Xbox trivia question, 4 multiple choice answers. Please note the correct one in your email, and you can send that to unlocked@ign.com. That's also where you can send loot box questions for the panel as well. All right, we are all done, Parris. I cannot thank you enough for coming on. This was a really enjoyable episode for me. I had a great time. I mean, you and I have not actually talked since I think we ran into each other on the E3 show floor a while back. So it's been too long. Let's not. I will do my best to not let it be so long again. let's promote yourself now. And now that the Unlocked audience, I mean, they know you a little bit, but maybe this is their first time hearing you on this show, maybe not. Where can we find you? Where can we follow you? Where can we watch you and listen to you as well?
Absolutely. So you can follow me on Twitter at Vicious696. I'm usually on there rambling about something. Our podcast is Gamertag Radio, gamertagradio.com. Search in your favorite, iTunes, Spotify, RSS feed. You'll be able to find us pretty easy. And I've also started a YouTube channel, which I've started to get a little bit of traction on. And just search my name because the URL is dumb. It's Parris, PARRIS. And I'm mainly going to be talking. I do live streaming on there, and I talk about Destiny, and I'm going to be talking about a ton of Cyberpunk when that comes out. So give it a shot, check it out, and appreciate all the support.
Fantastic. And Gamertag Radio, you guys, not too long ago, I mean, everything before the pandemic feels like a decade ago, but not too long ago, you guys celebrated your 1000th episode with Phil Spencer.
Yes, we got Phil Spencer, and this was back in February, which seems like it was 20 years ago, but we celebrated the 1000th episode of Gamertag Radio, and Phil Spencer was gracious enough to come on, and we talked everything about Series X and just their philosophy, leading into that, and obviously a lot of that's been revealed now, which, by the way, now that we have a direct chance to talk, kudos to you for your interview with Phil Spencer and the extended discussion that you had, because it was a great conversation. I love how candid he is with everything that they're doing over at Xbox, and it really gets me excited for the future of what they're going to do.
Yeah, you're very kind. Thank you for saying that. It's Phil. Yeah, Phil. It's a rare treat to get to talk to him, and I always put a lot of pressure on myself to try and make the most of those opportunities. But You're right. He's just so because the thing is, Phil, and I'm not taking shots at anybody else, but Phil is a real gamer. You've probably played Destiny with Phil either by design or by accident because he just plays all the time. And he's out, he plays everything. He's got his ear to the ground, not from some corporate ivory tower, but from the ground. He is out there playing games every day. So it's always a treat to talk to him. And maybe we're gonna have to do like a crossover episode at some point.
Yeah, something.
Gamertag Radio and Unlock. Maybe when the Series X launches, we should just join forces and make it happen.
Absolutely, that'd be a lot of fun.
Would be fun. And in fact, I mean, there's no excuse now because we're all just little windows on a screen.
Yeah, we're all home. Hey, we're all doing it remote, so absolutely.
Well, Parris, thank you so much. You can find me on Twitter real quick, DMC_Ryan. And again, I'll just promote IGN's Summer of Gaming kicking off now. Go to IGN.com or YouTube.com/IGN. But Parris, thank you again. This was an absolute treat for me. Come back anytime. Door is always open. And listen to Gamertag Radio. Check out the Parris YouTube channel. Get the latest and greatest there. And that's it, my friends. We will see you all next week.